Hello and welcome to the ninth episode of ScrollsTalks. Today with me I have the Overlord and Billy. Welcome onto the show.
Hello!
Hey.
And today it's going to be a pretty short episode. We're going to dive into and discuss two scrolls, but before we do that, I'm just going to take a look at what's been going on during the week. Have you guys been up to much in terms of scrolls?
In terms of scrolls, I've been a little bit relaxed. When it comes to scrolls, I mostly done other stuff than playing. Like I've been tackling my black market and doing some preparation for ESL, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I did a bit of playing on another account. I've been playing quite a fair bit, but as for really diving time into ranked and stuff, not really. I pretty much been doing stuff outside of Scrolls, but still related,
When I have played my regular late game order, just to make sure I'm still in shape.
Yeah, I've
Okay.
been playing Temple Order.
Yeah, I've stuck to just my ranged energy deck. But mostly I've been obsessed with the Heroes of the Storm. But I'll be back
And
in
I've been
Scrolls.
obsessed with League of Legends. I'm actually good for once.
I
Oh,
finished
yeah.
Metro 2033, which I've had for like over a year, and I finally got down to playing it, and it's really fun. And I finished it last night, so that's pretty much what I've been doing.
Excellent. So a lot of good games going around here. But let's get back to Scrolls. So what's been happening this week? There was a weekly design contest, number 21 or 22, I can't recall, and it was with Surge and Taxing Scrolls. You guys can still submit submissions to that, and just a reminder, you can win a Tier 3 scroll, a common scroll, of your choosing, should you win that contest, courtesy of Gary, I think, or semi-scrolling. On Wednesday, there was the weekly scroll discussion special, this time on the Lightning Chest, which was one of the contest winners. And overall, it seems like they think it's an interesting scroll, but it might be too expensive for what it does. Because we kind of touched upon this last week, but it doesn't actually give you energy. It just shuffles energy around based on how inefficient your plays are. And there was no creative corner on my part this week, and that's because I have something coming up pretty soon that's been taking up a lot of my attention. So stay tuned for that. Other than the weekly threads I am responsible for, there was the post on Scrolls.com regarding the mentorship program. So what you can do is you can hook up with these more experienced players. They will tell you what to do, how to get better at the game, and then I believe you get a Tier 3 scroll if you participate in that program. And details for that should be available on Scrolls.com. They have a link to the Scrolls Guide thread, I think. Other than that, there was a meta update by Dialex over at roastedbeanpotion.com. So far, it looks like Energy is doing quite well on Ranked. And generally, we seem to have broken away from the growth order kind of dual meta. And after this balance patch, we see almost all the resources equally represented. But this is still just 1 week into the meta after the balance patch, so things can get shaken up a bit more. So there's still room for that. And I believe that is mostly everything that's been going on this week. Just a heads up, there are new idols and avatar pieces in the store, in the game. As always, every week there will be a new one because they are on this rotation system.
It refused to give me the avatar I want.
Which one do you want?
I want the order one, that with armor guy.
Oh, the one with the big shield.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love that one.
I want to represent my order faction. It's like, here, do you want to be a bird? No, I don't want to be a bird. God damn it.
Yeah, I'm kind of holding off because I want to build up my gold a little bit. I kind of regret I had 100,000 gold prior to all these new avatars, and then I spent it all on making a Tier 3 Mystic Punch deck. So I kind of regret that now.
That was a mistake.
It
I
kind
can
of
tell you
was.
that was a mistake.
Mistakes were made.
And then that deck got nerfed to hell, and I don't even play it. But yeah, you know.
To hell, I would not say, but okay.
It's really tricky now with the 3 health Mystic, and then the 4 cost Verdant Veil. And I don't know what else it did. Oh yeah, and the Vengeance Veil nerf. It's tricky. I mean, I can still do it, but it's not as easy as before. But with that covered, let's move on to the scroll discussions. So first off is a fan-made scroll. And this was made by Flame Rage. He sent me this scroll over to me on the IRC channel. And it originally read, I'll just go through this. So it's called Iron the Lone Wolf. It's a human warrior at 4 decay. And what he sent me was a 2/2/4 that said Wind Strike. This unit attacks on the row above and below, in addition to the row in the middle. And that was a bit vague, and you'd have to kind of clarify, the attack order and things like that. So I ended up with this. Iron Lone Wolf attacks the above row, then the row it's on, and then the below row. And it's a unique with 1 attack.
I was about to comment on that because he posted on this earlier before I went to work. So I actually had some time to read this before you redid it in your own way. Did he confirm that this is how he meant it's supposed to be work?
He said it was really cool, so I assume so.
What? He saw how you had typed it and he was like, that's cool.
That's exactly what happened.
Okay. It's just that for me, when I read this, what you have typed and what he originally typed, they mean 2 different things.
Yeah, I mean, it was... the thing is...
Because the way I understood it, that he wanted with Wind Strike, is it's supposed to work like a cleave. The way you are typing it here, he is more like working like a Meyer Shambler 3 times, so to speak. That he's attacking these 1 row after the other in the same attack phase. So I'm like, which one is it supposed to be?
Yeah, I have the scroll in front of me here. And Wind Strike, it might sound like some sort of, what's it called, that energy scroll? Blast Strike. A sort of Blast Strike, but then also deals damage to the units above. But the way he wrote it was, the Iron Lone Wolf also attacks the above and below row. So I figured this is probably the thing he meant with it. And he thought it was cool, so we're gonna go ahead and discuss it as it is.
Difficult, but that's the thing. It can be 2 different things. I guess I can discuss both scenarios. If you want.
You can do that. So we can start off with what you were thinking that he meant. Okay. So as a sort of cleave, essentially.
Yeah. I just say cleave because I think most people are familiar with that term, what a cleave is.
Yeah.
I just want to do a short comment. First of all, I'm not sure why this guy has to be unique. But I mean, if you want him to be unique, sure. But it's for me, this is like putting a unique on a Royal Skirmisher. Like Royal Skirmisher should be unique, but okay, sure, if you want. The way I first took it, he meant it, is...
It's up on the stream now, by the way.
What?
I just put it up on the stream, so you should see it. The one he originally submitted.
Okay, great. With Wind Strike, I interpreted like a bit of a cleave, that it attack the guy... It attack normally in the same row, but also if there is another person in the row above and another person in the row below, they also get their damage on them. I'm not sure if they need to be adjacent. With the term Wind Strike, I would say not necessarily. Maybe it's some kind of wind that it attacks, some kind of if anyone's seen Bleach, a Gatsuka Tensho, like so to speak.
It's a very precise reference, and not many people would get.
Yeah. Basically, a gust of wind, like attacking the. What I think of that? Well, it's totally fine. It's a melee version of a lobber, essentially in that case. Because lobbers are the same thing. It's just that the lobber attacks from above, essentially, while this will be in right in front, which for me is fine. It would be a totally fine thing to have in the game. The way I see it, you have worded it, Squiddy.
I was gonna switch it back, right?
Is that he actually he attack one row, then go to another row and attack that row, and then to a third row and attack. I'm not sure if you actually meant that, but that's for me like what it says. First of all, I'm not sure how easy that is to code. And,
I was gonna say I can see this having if it's where he moves, then there's a lot of questions on, move priority and.
But I mean, if they could code that in, that would be kind of awesome mechanic to have in.
A lot of people I showed this off to said that it was broken initially, because any attack buff you put on him have its value tripled. In essence.
Well, then in that case, Stormrunner is broken. He's not broken.
Yeah.
I honestly say this guy is honestly too weak. This is like a Stormrunner for 4 costs, but instead of 2 attack, he has 1 attack and he affects 3 tiles instead of 4 tiles. And what is the benefit for him costing 1 more and all this punishment? He has 1 more health.
You do realize, by the way, that he would also attack into idols.
Okay, that is a benefit.
And he can also gain the benefits of being a melee unit, right? So if he was to be given enchantments and stuff, then he could get relentless and stuff like that, which would have.
Relentless is like the only thing. What more is it for a melee unit?
That's still a noteworthy point, though, right? When you change from the range to the melee, you can get relentless, which is,
But there's 2 cards in the game that can do that. Look, I stand by with I say he's either balanced or he's honestly actually a little bit too weak. But I don't think that is the main discussion, really. The main discussion is if it is is something we would be okay to have in the game, and for me, I think it's totally.
Well, hang on. What if you gave this thing Slayer? What then? How would that interact?
Well, essentially, it's doubling the effect, tripling the effect of any effect you put on him. If it's a Slayer thing, you're killing 2 extra units if your opponent has 2 creatures on the row above and then on the below row. If you put hex marks on him, and you get free access to 3 idols, you're dealing an additional 9 idol damage on top of the 1 per idol.
There's so many you can do this and you can do that. Yeah, but you're not counting error variables. Like, for example, if you have Slayer, okay, yes, the Slayer one is actually a neat idea, but one has to, in that case, you have to use Unforeseen Onslaught, and one has to question, okay, Unforeseen Onslaught with this guy. That is a cool idea, but except for Eager Scryer, how is it going to synergize?
No. I think you're misunderstanding what I'm doing by this, Overlord. Is that I'm looking. I always look when I see a new scroll. I always look what's the best how can this scroll be as good as it can be? What is the best case scenario for this, right? Because I kind of agree with you. I think that this on its own as a unique isn't that good, but I'm saying that if you were to give it these buffs, would that then push it over the line where it would actually be decent, right?
And I'm thinking in the same terms. I'm just saying, just as you're pointing out, all of these things that synergize with him would be great on him. I'm also thinking, but there's not just positive. For Squid's example with the hex marks, yes, that would be awesome, but you have to account that the opponent probably has a board. You can't just reach all those idols. And when it came to your Slayer example, I was about to say, that Slayer example is great on him, but it probably has kind of shitty synergy with the rest of your deck. If we will get more Eager Scryer guys and this guy, then yeah, sure, it would be an awesome thing. And would it be overpowered? Maybe. We see so little of Unforeseen Onslaught that I'm not sure how overpowered or not it has. It just has potential all the time. It's like one of those sleeper cards.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly why I gave it 1 attack, because I figured if you give it 2 attack, it would have an effective 6 attack in combat, because it would deal 2 damage to a row above, middle, and then below. So 2 times 3, 6. And that means you kind of have to give it a low initial attack amount, but then that suddenly gives it the opportunity to synergize with Unforeseen Onslaught, which only gives Slayer to creatures with 1 attack, I think, or less. And I think the game could do with more 1-attack creatures that synergize in that manner. But I showed this scroll off to a couple of people, and the initial reaction, I'm surprised that you think it's weak. The initial reaction thought that it was broken, because you could play a focus on this. And that essentially means that it's dealing 4 damage across 3, across 3 rows, which is 12 damage from a single 1-order spell.
And to that, I'm not surprised over that reaction, okay? Because we have that reaction every time we have a creature that it has a great multiplication, so to speak, when it comes to an attack amplifier. Everyone is like, this is broken. Like, people, we have this in the game. Look at what we have in the game. Are they broken? Is this similar to it in some way? Can we compare it? And then we can from that see, well, it's probably not broken, or maybe it is broken, and so on. Is it in a good attack amplification faction even? No, like this is Decay. For them to get attack amplification, they will need some synergy. Like the most broken thing I can see you probably do with this guy is if you do some kind of energy Decay deck, you can get Machination Mindset on him, so he has Relentless. If you then can do some kind of combo with Machination Mindset and a Machinated for a turn, that would be really good value. But that is like the absolutely best scenario I can think of him. Otherwise, he's completely fine and balanced, if you ask me.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's kind of, within Decay, he's a bit weak. But multi-resource wise, if you could figure out some sort of multi-resource deck, he becomes so much stronger. And it kind of requires a multi-resource deck to be the most optimal play.
Yeah, I'm not gonna deny, like, if this guy were in order, then yeah, we probably gonna see a lot of wilding, because it's very easy to amplify your damage in order.
Yeah, and similarly if it was in Growth, Stag Hearts, Earth and Mirth, etc. And they even have access to Relentless via the, what's it called? The 3-cost growth
You
thing.
mean Fierce Tactics?
Yeah, that's the one. And that wouldn't even be too hard to achieve. But in Decay, the only, I think, attack buff is Easy Alliance. And that's only +2 attack for each one.
I am not. I do not have good enough memory to go through everything.
Kaparot, so this thing would attack first. Essentially, the way I envisioned it is, you know the space in between the 2 boards, your board and then your opponent's board. So I imagine him running up to that in-between space, and then he runs up to the row above, attack, go to the middle row, attack, and then the below row and attack, and then he retreats back to his original position.
You're going full Deadpool on this.
Yeah. So that was how I envisioned it. Then you wouldn't have to deal with him moving up on your tiles.
If anyone didn't get that, Deadpool is a comic character that breaks the 4th wall.
Was he made by Rob Liefeld as well? Anyway, what would you guys run him? And you wouldn't run him in just a Decay deck, right?
I don't think I would.
I would put him in a Decay Growth, I think, because that way you could get, is it Underdog Spite? Does that work with this?
Oh, yes.
Right? Because that would count it down as well. And then you could give it Slayer with Unforeseen Onslaught. And you could also, once you're at 3, you might as well go to 4 and get Rats in there. And then incorporate the Rat, Pestis and Ranger Rat and stuff.
I could see him, if you remember that old deck where you used the decay growth and you used that combo of Necrogeddon Crimson Ball to just
Yep.
snipe people. I could see some kind of that deck go with this guy, because then you can run a sort of normal decay deck and have this whole human synergy with him. But then you do have those growth card like the Crimson Ball in case you want to use it with him.
You could also use Unground in a really interesting way, because you could do a lot of damage to idols before you even get to the target you're trying to hit, right?
Yeah, that's possible as well.
Yeah, so you could hit the idols like once or twice, and then you move on to try and hit him, and it's lowered his health by at least 2. So
Another thing you could do
But
is you could combo it with Eager to battle. So become hasted, and that circumvents the countdown issue, and then you plonk down a Stag Heart. Really, any damage buff you can put on him is going to be enough if he's hasted onto the board.
I feel like if there is advanced tactics, you're talking about something that is above it right now.
You think so?
you think?
Yeah, I mean, like, well, if we give him damage amplifier and then we put an unground on a unit that he will reach at the end of his turn, he can attack 2 open idols, damage that unit down, and then have enough damage to take down that ungrounded unit to make it all worth.
That might have been a top 5 play.
Surely though, when you look at something like this, you should try and like think like, okay, well, what can we, like, how can we push this scroll to the limit? Like, what is the best we can get out of it?
Then you can go... I said my scenario to it. What I think is probably the best way, the best combination for him. But
you could put Coronation on him.
What?
Coronation on him.
Yeah.
that feels like a coronation. Okay, yeah, but
I mean, you can't do disgusting things.
Can you actually? The thing is that you cannot really gain wild that easily with decay, as far as I know. You use ramp all the time. They don't have these replenish cards, so it would be hard to get coronation.
Well, I mean, it would be some sort of DO deck which stalls the game, then plonk down this guy, and then you play coronation at some point when he attacks. But then you wouldn't get Relentless, that's the thing. If you go Decay Order, you don't have access to Relentless. If you go Decay Energy, you have access to Relentless very easily, but your damage buffs are they're awkward. Like Machination Mindset is good. I mean, is it Machination Mindset? Machinated. Okay, so you have Machinated, but that thing is only good for 1 attack, because then he would get 4 countdown. And you wouldn't probably be able to attack again with him. And if you were to go with Growth Decay, you'd have some access to Relentless, although it would be expensive only for 1 turn, but you would have also access to a lot of really good enchantments. Like, for example, a Seed of Insurgency on this guy to ensure that he's around.
I was going to say Leeching Ring, just to keep him alive, right?
Yeah.
If you can buff up his health and then stick a Leeching Ring on, like, it could be a good god card, right? You could build a god deck around this guy, where you get, like, Eye of Eagle and stuff like that. He's the only creature you run, and you just buff him up to infinity and beyond, and then you stick, like, Leeching Ring on him, so he always is above a threshold, and I mean, I can see it.
Another thing
anyway, I have said my piece on him. I think he is balanced and fine. I mean, something am not on the overpowered hype train.
Something that would apply in this case, because it's a melee attacking unit, is Spiky. If your opponent has 3 Spiky units on those row, he'd die pretty quickly. So there is that going for it. And that's why I wanted it to actually attack 3 rows, so that there is some counterplay. Armor, for example. Spiky.
Oh my god, you could have Viscerous Aura, and you could just poison everything.
But with that,
You already have that, though. It's called Pestilence. There, continue.
Yeah, it's going to be playable, I think. But let's actually move on to the official scroll released. For those who are tuning in, this is a fan-made scroll. This is not going to enter the game, I think.
I'm pretty sure it won't.
Surprise! It's in.
Who
By the
knows?
way, I'm just gonna say the whole cleave ID, just to put into why I already have thoughts on it. Like, it's not a new ID. It's probably new for Diga, but I've been thinking about that. I think many have been thinking about that for quite some time.
Yeah, I
Long
called
time.
it strike through when I named it, but cleave is better idea. I actually came up with two different ideas. Basically, you remember the what's it called? That night guy, night sergeant. So he had this really elaborate attack when he was first revealed, and I thought, why don't he attack the unit behind whatever unit he attacks? Because it just looks like it when he twirls around his sword and pierces it through. But the developers were actually interested. I think Poi or Carnalize said, yeah, that's pretty neat, but it'd be just a trait for one unit, just because of his over-the-top animation. But let's actually discuss this scroll. So it's a set 7 scroll that was released today. It's 5 decay, called Sleep Moratorium, and it's a spell. And what it does, it is sifts 3 random scrolls from your discard pile and draws you one of them. You then gain current decay equal to the casting cost of the scroll drawn. So, Billy, what are your thoughts on this scroll?
Meh. It's okay. It's not bad. The problem I have with it is one, because it gives you decay. It kind of limits its. If it gave you wild, it might be too powerful. Maybe I'm not sure on that. I would have to give it more thought. But the reason I say it's meh and it's only okay. Yes, it draws from your discard pile, which is a big plus. That's nice, right? Get cards back into your deck is always good. But we already have something that does that a little bit better, and that's Halls von Blaster. And the other one, the other thing that really holds me back on going, this is really good, is that I feel like you have to be running stuff that costs 5 or more to really get the most out of it, right? Like, if you get lucky, if you're running Nuru, you can get a Nuru out with this, right? You can use it, pull a Nuru into your hand, and then play it that like straight away. And that's really cool, and that's really good. But I don't know how many decks would really run Nuru and run these really expensive decay stuff. So at that point, it's just kind of there to thin your deck out, and I feel like there's better stuff in decay for thinning your deck out, both from your discard pile and from your deck.
I'm actually taking a look
it's
here
okay.
at a Wash Again deck I made, and let's see now. So there are 7 scrolls at 5 cost, 4 scrolls at 6, 3 scrolls at 7, and yeah, I mean, the majority of the scrolls in your deck is probably not going to be 5 plus. So I'd assume you get like a 40% chance of drawing something that costs 5 or more.
Yeah.
And
maybe at that point it's really good, right? If that's the situation,
if you draw
happens,
it, then yeah,
it's outstanding. But I'm not sure how consistent that would be, and it's okay though, right? Any scroll that lets you draw from your discard pile is always decent. It's okay. It allows you to get some of your valuable stuff back into your deck, back into your hand. But because it's random, because you aren't guaranteed to get a positive trade out of it, it's okay. I think that it will see some play. I think that it's good because you can play off of it, right? Like you can play this, pick a scroll, and then play that immediately. It can be good, and that definitely has its place in the game. I'm just not. I don't think it's going to be.
I don't think it's actually that bad to draw something that costs less than 5. Because if you draw, for example, something that costs 3 decay, you're paying 2 decay to draw a scroll. That is good. I mean, as far as card draw goes or cantrips, that seems to be the standard. So when you think about it in that aspect, anything from 3 plus is worthwhile. Then you have probably an 80% chance of drawing something that makes it worthwhile. And then you have the potential for these sick turns where you draw a Nuru and play her on turn 5. And something else that it would also work really well with is Damning Curse, because that is taxing. And that means that eventually your Damning Curse might be at 6 or 7 decay. You play Sleep Moratorium, and you draw that Damning Curse, it now costs 5.
That's an interesting interaction. I'm not sure how that would it bring it.
I swear to God, in every Scrolls talk, you somehow manage to put in taxing into the conversation.
It's such a clever mechanic.
Such a good mechanic. I wonder how the interaction would work. Would it give it back to you as 5, or would it give it back to you as the taxing cost?
It would be the taxing cost because it says casting cost. So the Damning Curse scroll, if you've played it a couple of times, costs 8 decay. That is the casting cost because it changes whether the scroll is in the discard pile on the library. The number on the scroll itself has already been changed. But
interesting.
How about you, Doble? What are your thoughts on this scroll?
You know, the previous card I said, it's not a new idea. It's an old idea that we've been, at least I've been thinking and reflecting about before. This card is not a old idea. Sift is pretty new. Drawing from this card pile is pretty new. Gaining these resources and so on, like, holy shit, man, there's so much shit going on here when it comes to variables that I'm trying to comprehend also. Have the, on the card itself, and not the artwork, but the card, has it always been that it's like orange at the edges there? I always thought it was like the same color as the faction. Anyway, so to get something out, okay, I have two main things to bring up that pops up in my mind when it comes to this. Number one, it very much reminds me, honestly, with Somata Shift, and people might have the same reaction as when they saw Somata Shift for first time. If people don't remember, first time Somata Shift came up, people took it pretty much as a yoke card. I think we have shown that it can yoke on you. But the key part with Somata Shift is the cost, and this costs 5 and not 3. So that is vital. But does it? Can it be still powerful at 5 costs? You have way more control. You are sifting free here, and you are choosing. It's from the discard pile. The discard pile here is a main factor in how you're probably gonna play this, because you probably want to play this as early as possible in the game.
Yeah.
For the reason that it's from the discard pile, because if you don't know, at least when it comes to, I think most pros that plays, they discard at the beginning. They discard the high cost card because they are not going to play that in several turns. So as early as possible, you're probably gonna have a bunch of high cost cards in your discard pile, while the rest of the cards is in the library. So that is so as early as possible you can play this. It's probably the best scenario you can play this. The later you go, the more cheap stuff you're gonna have in the discard pile, and the worse it's gonna get. So you need to wait for the reset probably to really get it, to really use it efficiently. So that is my main point with you. If we're gonna see this played, and I think we're probably gonna see this played in some extent. You're probably gonna see it in the terms that this is something you use in opening stages, and then you kind of wait with using it until you have reshuffled the deck. What you use it for, like what does it really gain you? That I have a hard time to answer, so I'm gonna stop there.
I mean, you're right. I mean, essentially, if you're sacrificing for 1 decay every turn, then by turn 5 you'll have 5 scrolls in your discard pile, and you'll be able to play Sleep Moratorium. So you'll want to almost make sure that in your beginning hand that you mulligan for, you have a lot of expensive scrolls. Because you don't want to be sacking, I don't know, a Ripper and a Soul Steal into your discard pile when you have this thing in your hand, because you know, okay, I might draw a Ripper from this 5 decay Sleep Moratorium thing, and that would be a really terrible draw. It'll be a 5 decay ripper, essentially. And that might lead you to mulligan a bad hand. I doubt you would do that, actually, because you'd rather have a good hand overall, rather than gamble on this thing. But if you see the Sleep Moratorium in your hand, but the rest of your hand is filled with maybe Necrogaddons, a Neuro, a Halls of Umlasa, then you might keep that hand, just so you can sack those things. I mean, you're sifting
Yeah,
also those
possibly.
3 scrolls from the discard pile. So yeah.
Also, just as a short comment, with your comment that you can see this as a cantrip card, I will not really see it that way.
It's not a cantrip.
It's not really. When cantrip is powerful, is when you play a card, but you still maintain the same amount of cards in your hand. This won't do that. You will still lose a card from your hand. It's not making sure that you draw the other cards faster from your library, because this draws from the discard pile.
You're right.
So it's not really a cantrip in that way. It's just reusing what you have from the discard pile, which is a benefit on its own, but it's not in the terms of cantripping.
I mean, something it does is it actually is a graveyard thinner for your Halls of Umlasa. Because Halls of Umlasa would draw from your discard pile.
That's some next level, Squiddy.
Can I just comment on the cantrip thing? We have to be very careful when we use the term cantrip, because it does vary for certain people, because it is just a slang term to a lot of people and not a defined thing, right?
I'm totally fine scrapping it if you want that.
What, the term cantrip?
Yeah.
I like the term cantrip. I have my own meaning for cantrip.
I say we scrap cantrip.
No, I really like
aggro,
cantrip.
We scrap tempo. We scrap all this mid-range. What the hell is a mid-range? Anyway, you keep on with your talk about
we have to be a little bit careful when we use the term cantrip, because what cantrip means to me is not what cantrip might mean to you, right? Like, the way I work out if a card is a cantrip is that it's a 0 on play, right? And what that means is that you play a card, you lose a card, and then you instantly draw a card on play, regardless of any other effects that it might have. Right, that's how I determine a cantrip. That isn't how most people would determine a cantrip. It's just a Pokemon thing that stuck with me, right? So we have to be just a little bit careful when we use the term cantrip, either saying it is or isn't.
I like how you use the term careful. Like, we need to be careful. Like, what can happen to us?
No, because people.
I think a lot of people might confuse cantrip with card draw. And throw around cantrip, you say something like a pother is a card draw, but it isn't really a card draw, because you're not gaining a card advantage. You're not generating card advantage. But
because naming conventions in Scrolls, I think, are something that we've talked about in the past, and I think it's important to be delicate with the situations.
Definitely.
People don't get confused, and people don't misinterpret what you're saying, for instance. So. But continue.
Yeah. Well, we don't have to discuss cantrip, but if anyone wants to, I think people have understand what at least this card do. If you don't, it uses this card to draw something from the discard pile, and then you get resources.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because you can actually, the thing is, you can play a multi-resource deck. You can have a coronation in your discard pile, and you draw that thing. And then you gain 8 decay. And that can be put to use somehow, I'm sure. So it does actually work in multi-resource, even if you can't play the scroll you draw, if it is another resource and you don't have enough for it.
I don't know how, but just in some way, my brain is like, we can puzzle this together. I'm not sure how this puzzle fits, but we can do it. Prisoner of War, all champions, discard. It can work somehow.
It probably can.
I'm not sure how, but it can work somehow.
I mean, if this thing was sift 3 random creatures from a discard pile,
that would be insane.
Do you think that would be interesting? More interesting?
That would be good, man. That would be crazy good.
I'm not sure if that would be crazy. That would change the dynamic of it.
Well, what you could do, right, is at that point, then I would start running stuff like Eye of Eagle, Prisoners of War, like ways just to cycle your deck, just to draw it and then sacrifice it so I could try and pull it back. You know what I'm saying? Like I
Yeah,
feel like you
but
could.
it's just that what you gain is you gain decay. Are you gonna do? Spam Nurus?
You could
I
spam
mean,
Nurus.
there are worse ways to to spam cards out.
I mean, what you could do is you can sort of create an all-champion deck. Decay, Grave Gruul. You draw these Jarl Urhalds, K, and then you get like a bunch of Decay, and then you play Grave Gruul, and then you play those things. So you could probably do some sort of all-champion deck.
So it's been a long time. How does attrition work again?
What did you say? Attrition?
Nutrition. N-U-T-R-I-T-I-O-N.
Well, you kill something and get the resources back that it costed.
Do you get it in that faction's resources?
Yes.
No,
You do.
What?
If it's a decay creature you're killing, you get that.
Ah, that's a shame.
Yeah,
okay.
that's true. That's why puppet nutrition was overpowered.
Yes. Okay. Never mind then, because I was thinking that maybe you could, if that was the case where it draw creatures, you could do some really weird combos where you would play out creatures and then nutrition them to get wild, and then you would play out other creatures like.
Do you remember when I said there's advanced tactics, and now you're talking about something above it? You're on that point again.
I'm trying to like I would, when a suggestion is given like that, I'm like, how can I break it? And like the cogs start going in my head.
No, the Overlord. I am thinking in how can we use this the most optimal way as possible. You have to think it like that, Overlord.
Another thing that you can do with this that a lot of people have noticed is you can create an infinite loop. If the only scroll in your deck, your discard pile is Sleep Moratorium, and you play Sleep Moratorium, you will draw that Sleep Moratorium. You can just keep on drawing Sleep Moratorium over and over again.
How could you get that to trigger?
You'd do it after a deck cycle. So you'd sacrifice. You have 2 Sleep Moratorium in hand. You sacrifice one of them right after the deck cycle, so there is nothing else in your discard pile. And then you play Sleep Moratorium. And that means you can play as many spells as you want in a turn, which might trigger resonance effects.
Yeah, yes, I'm trying.
That's hard to pull off, though.
It is really hard
to pull off.
It's hard to pull off, but not impossible to pull off. I've seen more crazy stuff.
It means that you can build up your board.
I'm more thinking like, is there a way to abuse that? Like there's ways to kill yourself with it, like Metal Wonders, but like is there a way that is beneficial to you? Like is there a way, because yes, there's a resonance, but what are you gonna? It's
basically if you do some sort of
the resonance is not something that will make you win just on your own like that. It's just buffing attacks and stuff.
That could be enough. If you have 3 Arbalistirs out, 1 Reloras in the middle of them, and then you play Sleep Moratorium, you can get them up to 30, 40 attack.
Jesus.
It would be basically an order deck with up to 5 decay. And you need to time it so that at the deck cycle, you have at least 1 Arbalistir out, 1 Reloras, and then you play your 2 Sleep Moratoriums. And maybe they add more resonance effects that would make... if there was a resonance effect in decay, you could achieve it a lot easier. And it might be worthwhile.
Okay, to put it in, because we're doing some, as I said, some serious advanced tactics right now with the whole thing. Squiddy, if there was a competition where you must use this scroll, how would you use it in your deck?
I would do a Decay Order stall deck with Imperial Resources, all those stally cards. The only creatures in my deck would be the Arbalistirs and Reloras. And then I would try to time it so that I have at least 2 Reloras out, one Reloras out, 2 Arbalistirs out. And then at the deck cycle, I win the game. Like this would be a game winner when you deck cycles, so long as you have those creatures out. Because then you can make sure that your Arbalistirs will be at 0 countdown, no matter what. And you can get up as much attack as you have time to click this spell during that 90-second window. So I think I could get up to 50 attack for each Arbalistir. And that would be game.
I would just run it in a regular deck and play it every once in a while. That's how I would do it. I wouldn't do anything crazy like that.
I would probably use this in a combination in a deck, just because I think there's a good synergy there. With that, I would use this in a deck that also use Halls of Umlasa, because you're probably gonna have fairly good chances then to draw back your halls, either from the halls itself or from this, if you're gonna play in that kind of deck. How the whole deck would look like how many high cost cards I have and so on, that would be too complicated to just brainstorm here. But I will probably synergize those two together.
Alright, but it's a really cool scroll, and I like that the community managers are continuing with this approach. One scroll every Friday, keep dropping these little spoilers up until the actual release of the expansion.
It's a better way. It's a better way of doing it, I think. I think that this is... It's better than just dumping them all out, right? Like,
Definitely.
we get to talk about them, and then we get to Theory Craft, we have a week to sit on them, and then we get the next one. Whereas sometimes if you get, 60 or 70, not that many. But if you get a lot of scrolls in one go...
I mean, what they used to do, I think they dropped the scrolls in 20 chunks.
Yeah.
20 card chunks. That's too much.
Yeah, because you can't... Because you might miss psych, right? Like, you might look at it and go, like... I don't know, like Coronation, who cares about that? That's going to suck. And you just move past it without actually thinking about it and going, well, how could we actually use this and how could it work? And really getting to know if the scroll can be, really powerful, or if it's kind of a meh scroll, or if it's just okay, And having time to sit on it and think about it is important.
I think they could even do less. They could put out less scrolls, fewer scrolls on the test server. I think it would be enough from now on. If you show these scrolls every week, and then you win one of each resource, you put 4 of them on the test server. Because I have a feeling that there's still some time until set 7 is actually released. So they need to make sure that they don't blow their load too early. So they don't plunk down 12, 12, 12, and then we're waiting a month before it's actually released.
I agree with that, but I do want... I feel like, the devs are at GDC at the moment, right? So it's it's difficult for them to do this. But I would like the cycle to be very, very fast, a lot faster than what it is now, right? Where on a Friday a new scroll is going to be announced, and then that following, let's say Monday or Wednesday, it's going to be put on the test server, and then people can play with it. And then the next Friday, a new one will be announced. Following Monday or Wednesday, it will be released onto the test server. We can test it. Like, we have that weekend to test it and see what it can do.
That would be really
cool. And then,
approach.
It's done and dusted. You know what I mean? Like, everyone's focusing on one scroll. Everyone's testing one scroll, working out this one scroll. And then by the time we've got to come to a good conclusion on it, the next one's already announced. And we're already theory crafting, heading into testing.
All I know is that they are going... Well, I don't know this, but I predict this. They're going to work their asses off to get this set out, making all these cards and so on, giving small chunks of more cards all the time here until the set is complete. Then the set will come to live. Everyone will be playing the new set. And that is the time. I can see that already on the calendar and how that works. That is the time we will approach when they all go on a vacation. So they will be gone on vacation, and because we have now a new set, we're probably gonna have so many broken, unbalanced stuff that we didn't realize before. That we just realized when it hits the live server that everyone is going to be like, "Oh my God, this is so overpowered," and I'm going to have a blast.
But I feel like we transition that straight to the test server, and that's a conversation I don't know if Squiddy really wants to have on this stream, but...
No, I mean, we'll see what the future holds. I think that so far, the developers are doing better than with Waypoint and Rebellion set releases. Much better, this is miles above that. Direction. And I think that with that, we can actually end the show. So...
May I just give a...
Go ahead.
Imagine if next set would be like, we get this, set 7, and then it's just calm, it's just calm for 2 months. And then one day, they just patch a whole new set, just randomly on the live server, here's the next set.
That would be interesting.
bad surprise, man.
I think a lot of people would be positively surprised by that. Who knows? It might happen. It might not. But yeah, I think it's time to end the show. So, Overlord, do you have any last-minute plugs you'd like to make?
No, I haven't made my list yet. That you're supposed to like interrupt and all that. What I can do. I like to plug two people.
Go ahead.
I like to plug Billy, who is working so furiously on the Dragon Brawl, and I like to plug my my guild leader, Magpie Man, who's working furiously to try work with Billy on the Dragon Brawl, and seems to go like that.
All right. And what about you, Billy?
Yeah, Dragon Brawl tomorrow. If anyone's interested in playing, new rule set, slightly different rule set. Rule set's the same. They're entry level, a little bit easier to get in. If you're in a guild and you feel like playing in that, the team requirement is now only 3, but you can have 2 teams enter.
Prepare yourself for the Badger Slayers 1 and 2.
Sorry?
We're going to send in the Badger Slayers 1 and 2 from
Nice.
Strategic
I'm
Angels.
looking forward to the names. I thought to myself, should I have names or should I just list them as like Rats and Bunnies 1 and Rats and Bunnies 2? I was like, no, let's give them names. Let's let people have funny names and that might add something to it, right? If a team stays together for a long time, it's always the same 3 people working together and they have this outlandish name, then it's cool, right? They represent a
it's
like
a cool
representing
idea.
a country but having their own club, right? If we're talking like sports, I like that idea.
I just like to give a fair warning that if same guild is gonna send in 2 teams, and the 2 teams will face each other at the very start, it's probably gonna be riot.
Okay, yes, so there are 3 options here, and I honest to God have not decided which one. Well, actually, I think I know which one we're going to go with for this week coming up, but I haven't decided which one's the best one. Option number 1, and I'm not like picking which one I like most because I don't know yet. Option number 1 is the one you just said, where the two teams will play off against each other at the start. I'm not a fan of that. I think it's kind of boring. Option number 2 is that the 2 teams will meet before the finals, right? Like in my best power that I have, the 2 teams will meet before the finals in like the semi-finals, right? If they both qualify, so that you can't have 2 guilds play each other in the end. The other option is they start on opposite sides and they don't have a chance of playing against each other, which could lead to 2 guilds playing against each other in the finals. I don't know which one's the best one out of those 3. I think we're going with the third one, where they're starting opposite sides, I think. Unless in the next several hours I have an opinion and go, wait, no, we should do it this way. I'm pretty sure they're going to start on opposite sides, which means we could have...
This is just going to be a casual Dragon Brawl anyway. So I think it's fine to make mistakes.
It's not a serious one. And people were getting very, very passionate about the Dragon Brawl. More passionate than perhaps I can deal with, because no matter what I decide and no matter what my decision is, people are angry and shouting at me and saying, how could you not talk to people before making this decision? And I go, well, I'm trying to please everyone here and no one seems to be happy with any of the decisions, so we'll see.
Well, I of course appreciate your work. I'm not saying anything like that. It's just that I think me as well some other feel like maybe this is not entirely thought out.
I mean, well, I can't.
We'll find out tomorrow. Like ultimately, this is a test run.
You know what I mean? And I understand that no one's like being personal or anything like that, but it does kind of weigh you down when no matter what decision you make, someone's not going to be happy. So we'll see, though.
Yeah, you guys have that to look forward to tomorrow. And there's a lot of other tournaments coming up. If you're interested in finding out more about them, head over to scrolls.com. Admins have written a post about pretty much every tournament coming up. So with that...
Yo, Atmas, if you're watching, where's that Pre-Con Cup tournament or whatever it was called?
It's gonna happen eventually.
Yeah, sure.
This is secret stuff, by the way, the Overlord. Shush you. Okay, guys. Thank you so much for coming on here. And thank you guys for watching. If you're interested in the Scrolls Talks episode, head over to my YouTube channel. It's YouTube slash, I don't know, Squiddy Biscuit or something. And take a look there as well. Follow if you're interested. And I'll see you hopefully in the future. Bye bye. The Overlord, Billy, say bye.
Oh, bye.
Bye bye.
There we go. Bye, guys.